Welcome to Intro to Luke. In today's video, we're looking at Luke chapter 5, verse 27 through 32, in which Jesus calls Levi to be a disciple. Now, you and I know Levi better as Matthew, but I'll use the names interchangeably. So, Matthew is a tax collector. He's sitting at his tax collector's booth and he does the unthinkable. Jesus comes up to him and says, "Follow me," the divine command. And what does the Bible say that Levi does? Leaving everything, he rose and followed him. And that's not all. He takes him to his house. He prepares a great feast. He invites the other tax collectors and friends. And what do those pesky scribes and Pharisees say? Oh, he's brought the dregs of society, the dreaded tax collectors and sinners. But I'm going to paraphrase Jesus' response in verses 31 and 32. He basically says that it is the sick who need a physician, not healthy people. And I have come to call sinners to repentance, not righteous people. Now let's think about why Luke put this story here. It really dovetails well with the first three stories in chapter 5. Now, what I'm trying to impress upon you is that chapter 5 is a series of first encounters, first events, what I'll call in shorthand firsts. And there are three of those in this story, so it does fit well with the other three stories. First of all, we see that this is the first time a disciple calls people to Jesus. Then we also see that it is the first time that Jesus uses the divine imperative, "Follow me." And finally, it's the first time that we really get a glimpse into the self-righteous attitude of the scribes and Pharisees. Now, I say that this story dovetails well with the others. For example, back in the first story, in verse 10, Jesus responds to Peter's comment of, "Depart from me, I'm a sinful man, O Lord," with, "Fear not, for now on you will be catching men." And that is exactly what happens in the story of Levi. What is the first thing he does? He prepares the feast and he calls his friends to hear Jesus. So there we have it, the first time that one of the disciples is really catching men. Now let's go to the second first, where Jesus comes up and issues the divine imperative, "Follow me." Luke does not give us any preamble. There's no context. Luke doesn't record that Levi even hears the gospel. And yet, when Jesus says, "Follow me," that is exactly what he does. Now, interestingly enough, there's been a fair amount of research in recent years on the Greek command, the imperative. And one of the things that they found is that when it's in the present tense, come follow me now, basically, that it is really calling for a person to change their pattern of life, their habits. And so in this situation, the sense is that Jesus expects Levi to get up, stop doing what he's doing, and follow after Jesus. I mean, think about it. Jesus later famously says, "Take up your cross and follow me." So that's exactly what's happening here. There's a sense in which this command is the gospel. And one of the themes I've been trying to develop in these videos on Luke is the idea that the gospel demands a response. And that's what's happening here. And what's interesting is, without any preamble or context, Luke records Levi getting up and following. Now, Jesus was the talk of the town. I mean, he was this famous miracle worker, so in all likelihood, Levi had heard something more than just Jesus showing up and saying, "Follow me," but who knows? So there is inherent in this something that we have to tease out, which is that in the mind of Levi, someone greater than he is issuing a command to him. So remember that in a command, we have inherent in it is a command from the greater to the lesser, from the general to the soldier, from the mother to the child. And by necessity, an imperative, a command, involves the human will. The will of the one issuing the order and the will of the one hearing the order, receiving it. And as I said, there's a sense in which when the order is issued, it is expected to be obeyed. And therefore, when the recipient doesn't obey, they have to bear the consequences of their failure to act. So here we have something very interesting. Something in Levi's mind affirms to him that someone greater than he is issuing a command that he must obey. But how do we know this? How is this implied? Is it from the fancy feast that he throws for Jesus? Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Jesus was a celebrity, and people love to hang with celebrities. That's the way life is. No, but I think the evidence is there. Here's what really convinces me, is that when Jesus comes and gives him the divine command, follow me, Levi abandons his lucrative business. People don't just walk away from their livelihood for no reason. There's something in Levi's mind that affirms to him that Jesus is greater than he and that this order must be obeyed. And so he does, at great personal cost to himself. So there you have the second of the two firsts. But what about the last one? What about this idea of the self-righteous nature of the scribes and Pharisees? Well, this is a theme that's going to play itself out through the rest of the chapters, going all the way to chapter 17. Over and over again, Jesus is encountering these particular scribes and Pharisees, and they are self-righteous. They do not see themselves like Peter did. Remember, he heard Jesus preach, he sees the miracle of the catching of the fish, and he responds, "Depart from me, for I'm a sinner, O Lord." That's the proper response of mankind in general. But that's not how these self-righteous scribes and Pharisees respond. And we're going to see this very clearly as the chapters unfold. So I'll see you next time.